Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, and today we're talking about Spider-Man Homecoming 2017.
Spoiler alert! Hello?
I just had a brain fart. I don't know what we do after that part. David, what do you give this movie out of 10?
Spider-Man Homecoming is at its best when it's in confident swing as a high school comedy, and its absolute worst when it's trying to stick to the MCU. But manages a fair balance, making this the second best Peter Parker film ever.
Interesting.
B+, because this is a high school movie.
What a guy.
Which translates to what, a 76?
Yeah, like 7.8. 78 or something, yeah.
73 was a B, right?
Oh, 76 is... I thought 76 was a B.
B+ is,
God,
I thought it was like
remember.
79 to 84.
God, who cares? I'm interested in on your take about the MCU stuff. I might have the opposite opinion to you. Riley, what do you think about this movie?
Here's my slogan. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size.
In this economy?
Catches thieves just like flies. And here's the important part, okay? Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man. Aunt May is hot. 7 out of 10.
Love it.
You're the worst. She is so hot, though. I love how the movie is aware of her hotness.
Yeah.
It's sweet. It's actually so cool and charming because she's like 90s hot. Like, she's been in Seinfeld, you know, Marissa Tomei.
Yeah.
So
I honestly, like, yeah, when I saw this movie, I was like, Marissa Tomei.
I feel like she's there for the dads. And the people in the movie calling her, like, commenting on her looks and trying to hit on her, like, notably Tony Stark.
Yeah.
It's all people in their 40s. It's like Jon Favreau was like, whoa, Marissa Tomei's here?
Yeah. No, the kids, the boys are never like, oh, your Aunt May's hot or whatever.
I love the, at the Thai restaurant, the server who gives her, like, the ice cream or whatever, and he, like, winks at her. He's like, kills me.
Yeah, what a bae. Okay,
twist.
my turn. Spider-Man Homecoming is an absolute slam dunk that walks a silky tightrope between epic MCU stakes and friendly neighborhood coming of age, while finally answering the question of whether Spider-Man could beat up Batman. 7.8 out of 10.
Huh?
What does it say?
What do you mean?
Could he beat up
Batman? What do you mean?
The villain in this movie is Batman.
Are you kidding me?
Have you
Leave
seen
the room.
Have you seen Batman?
The Vulture is the same as Batman?
The actor played Batman previously.
Good gravy, James.
Old man Batman.
You
Dark Knight
nearly
Returns
gave me a
Batman.
heart attack, man.
Jesus.
What are you trying to do?
I'm sorry, I have to explain my jokes around you. I'm giving it a 7.8, even though I actually think this movie is kind of a masterpiece. Probably deserves to be in the 8 range. I'm giving it a 7.8 just because, yeah, it's kind of a kid's movie.
I struggled with the rating also. I was like, I settled on a 7 because I'm like, you know, Into the Spider-Verse, but we'll do that later. I'm like, what's that?
Oh, that's in the 9s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed this movie a lot more the first time I saw it, but with the sequel being such a downer, I think like the whole thing was brought down.
A downer?
Yeah, we'll talk about that, but first...
Are we going to spoil the sequel?
No, we don't need to spoil it.
I haven't seen it.
You don't need to.
Yeah, don't spoil the sequel.
I really like Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't even want to look at your face right now. You're going to spoil Jake Gyllenhaal with your eyes.
If you think...
Jif Jake and all.
It's okay. Who's sponsoring this podcast, James?
Carpool Critics is sponsored by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Whether you're a man or a Spider-Man, they offer precision-engineered jewels for your 8-legged jewels.
Ooh.
Did I say jewels twice? They make the ball hammer... Manscaped makes the Lawnmower 3.0, the best ball hair trimmer on the planet with a 7,000 RPM quiet stroke motor and even an LED light so you can see what you're doing. You know... My spider sense is going off. I just snagged my nuts.
No!
That doesn't happen with this puppy.
Exactly.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CARPOOL at manscaped.com.
Could you shave the little hairs off a spider with it?
Let's try. That's our next episode.
You got to take the guard off for that. We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 5 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch.
Web grenade! Boom.
If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a goddamn Chrome extension. So check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolpia.
I love their theme song.
Riley was mouthing along.
Was I?
Yes.
Oh, man. I was going to make a song. Like, carpool P-I-A.
Oh, you can just go easier. P-I-A, P-I-A.
I like how this movie starts from the opening shot. The first thing you see, you're like, okay, we're in the Avengers universe. The first thing you see is a kid's drawing of all the Avengers. There's like a little crayon picture of Hulk and everything. And it's being looked at by the dad of the kid, who is the villain, Adrian Toomes.
Right.
He's the Vulture. And they're standing at a construction site rebuilding after the events of what? Thor?
No, the first
Age of
Avengers.
Ultron. Or, yeah, the first one. You're right.
It's the
you're
first Avengers, the Battle of New York. Or whatever. The Chitauri attacked, and now there's all these alien
memorable
artifacts
enemies.
and ships and what?
The very memorable enemies.
Yeah. Well, they are from the comics.
I'm sure.
I thought they were just made up for the movie. But anyways, there's all these alien artifacts and glowy things strewn about the city, and Adrian Toomes he heads a cleanup crew, and they're trying to salvage this stuff.
I think it's cool, and he's really relatable. He's like a really small time, like, hey, like you sympathize with him right away.
Yeah.
He totally is likable in that he's like, I'm trying to provide for my family. Look, I have a child who drew this. And now I can't pay salaries.
I think, and we'll get into this, but like, I agree with you that he does seem very relatable and kind of just like a regular guy, maybe a rough and tumble guy, but like just a regular guy. And that's why his arc over the course of the movie, I don't love it. I don't feel like it's super believable. But we'll get into that.
I totally agree. I love that they make him a blue collar villain. Most villains are just these super brainy or super evil. Mm-hmm. He's just a regular dude. And like one thing I really like is that you actually kind of feel the consequences of his actions by the end of the movie. Like most supervillains, they do these things, they get in trouble, they're sent away to some prison or whatever that never matters. But with this guy, like when he gets caught, like his family suffers for it, and then you kind of feel that he's way more grounded throughout the movie, and that's something that's really cool.
His family, they move to a new city, and he goes to jail. Presumably, he doesn't get to see his family anymore.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's not that developed. Like, it's not like the story of Adrian Toomes' tragic fall, but it works for me. And I think like even the first time he kills one of his crew, he does it by accident. And then that's kind of the start of him like becoming more of like a villain. But he's just like, oh, I thought that was the gravity gun. Oops.
Yeah,
I thought that was like a cheap little throwaway line. Because it was like, oh no, he's an evil guy. But then it almost seemed like the screenwriters like just like, oh, let's throw that in there to make sure the audience knows he's not a monster.
It's because he looked too much like Tom Hardy, so they had to just get him off the set. Yeah.
Logan Marshall Green. I recognize that guy all the time.
He's Tom Hardy.
In every movie that he's in. And I'm like, why isn't this guy a bigger... Because he's the guy from Upgrade.
What is that?
Okay,
neither of us know.
Okay, quick aside, guys. So Venom came out, right? Tom Hardy is Venom. And around the same time, this guy, Logan Marshall Green, who looks a lot like Tom Hardy, starred in a movie called Upgrade, which is basically the same thing as Venom, except instead of an alien symbiote taking over his body and giving him superpowers, it's like an AI implanted into his spine.
Okay.
And it's literally the exact same premise.
Yeah.
So that's so
really
funny
weird.
to me. But anyways, back to the movie.
There's lots of things I like about this villain. I like that he's really integrated into the rest of the plot. Like the fact that his daughter is the love interest of Peter Parker.
You like that?
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it's great. They foreshadow it just so slightly.
Yeah.
Like, first is the drawing that we see. You know that he has a kid, but they don't say daughter. They just say kid in that scene.
Right.
And then later, there's things like, there's a shot where Adrian Toomes is watching TV. He's watching Spider-Man on the news, being, Spider-Man guy is on the news. And then
Spider-Man.
It cuts from there to the very next thing you see is Liz, the girl, hugging her mom. So it's just like, it goes from Toomes' face to the girl, so it's just like associating them just so subtly.
Oh, I love when they first reveal that they're connected, that like Peter Parker opens the door and he's there.
It's a good moment.
And then that whole scene where it's like in a normal high school movie, the dad is like a brute who's like, I'm going to kill you if you hurt my daughter. Yeah. But in this context, it has this whole new meaning. Yeah, I love that.
And I also like that when he opens the door, you're confused because... You know, he's white and his kid, Liz, as far as you know so far, is black. Turns out she's mixed race. So when he opens the door, it's like, did he somehow
did he kill her and
kidnap that whole family or what?
But now he's going to pretend to be her.
Within like 20 seconds, the mom walks in, who's black, and you're like, I'm racist. It's just an interracial couple. Duh.
It's the simplest explanation.
I think more broadly in this movie, they have excellent casting. Like we already talked about Marissa Tomei, but like Ned is excellent. I think MJ, like having Zendaya.
I love MJ.
She's
in
great.
this movie.
She's great.
I love that she's not the pretty one, but by the she's obviously a gorgeous. She's a model. But like you get to know her so much more through her like little sarcastic remarks and her joke. Like I love to draw people in crisis.
Drawing people in crisis. Man, she's like the comic relief in this movie, and
Yeah.
she's so
good.
miles away
Yeah.
from MJ of the past. Like Kirsten Dunst just crying all the time. She's the opposite of that, and so much so that you don't even know until she says, "Call me MJ" at the end.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
blindsided by that. Like I did not see that coming.
She is great, but I think even more than her, I think that like Ned is. I think this movie would be like significantly worse if Ned wasn't in this movie.
Oh my gosh, Oh yeah, sorry.
His like support role to Peter and all the times that he's like trying to like he thinks it's so cool that he's Spider-Man. He wants to be the guy in the chair and stuff. Like
And then he gets to be it.
yeah,
I love that scene.
Spider-Man doesn't usually have a sidekick kind of character or a friend.
No.
Usually, does he?
And that's one of the things that this movie did to the Spider-Man mythos that just like improves it. I feel like Spider-Man wasn't traditionally like the mentee of Tony Stark or anything. Like,
Well, he has been a mentee. I hate mentee. I like protege.
sorry,
I hate mentee.
sorry, I'll remove it from my vocabulary.
Thank you. He's a protege of the
Mentos,
the lizard guy who Doctor
Oh, yeah,
Doctor
yeah.
John something.
Dr. Octopus.
Nope.
No.
Octopuses are lizards.
No, that's birds.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a lizard. Yeah.
It's cool. It makes us feel more. They do a lot of things that make it feel more like a high school, like he's in high school.
Yeah.
The high school scenes are so much more real. Usually, even in the animated one in the 90s, Peter Parker just looks like a jacked man.
Yeah.
You know? And then Tobey Maguire, like, he was obviously 30.
Yeah.
He was 25 and Andrew Garfield was 26 when they first
Garfield's
started.
more of a baby face, but
For sure.
And how old is Tom Holland when he filmed
He was
it?
19.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Right on.
and all the supporting cast, like that Asian kid that keeps showing up, looks like he's like 13.
the chess playing
yeah,
one?
the chess playing one who's in the bathroom too. Like he actually looks like he's in high school. And I
For sure.
really
Oh, is that the
love
same guy?
I think so.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, he
I
shows
hope
up
so.
twice, yeah. And then they also integrate it, like, story-wise. Like, when he's driving, he steals Flash's dad's car.
Such a good scene.
And he's driving that, I think it's an Audi around, and he says, I've never driven before. I don't have a license.
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
This movie is like such an interesting, cool mashup between like a John Hughes 80s movie and an MCU superhero movie.
Well, apparently the whole cast had to watch like every John Hughes movies in marathon
What?
before they started this because they were trying to go for that John Hughes flavor.
Oh, I had no idea.
And you can kind of see it in like the music selection, how music is very prominent
Yeah.
throughout. I don't love the choice of music. Like the Ramones to me is such a lazy choice, but it kind of works for making like edgy teenager.
Oh yeah.
It worked.
One of the things that took me out of it a little bit in regards to that was when they go into the prom or whatever, homecoming, and it's like 80s dance music is playing. I'm like, what? No, they'd be playing like EDM or something.
Yeah. So I like my favorite bits in this movie are when it settles into being like a high school comedy, when it's just like we're making jokes and like
Oh,
sometimes
the TV announcements.
Oh, I love that. It's so funny. It's such a good thank you, Spider-Man.
Thank you,
or like
Spider-Man.
even some of the superhero bits, like when they got the hot dog vendor on the streets, like, hey, you're Spider-Man, do a flip.
Do a backflip, and
Do
he
a
does
back-
it.
yeah,
And he's like,
it's killed me.
yeah.
Stuff like that gets me. Or like when he's like failing to be a neighborhood Spider-Man, like he stops the person stealing the car, but it's actually the person just trying to get in their car and like sets off the alarm. Everyone's freaking out. That stuff really works for me. But when it's like trying to fit him into Avengers scale conflict, that's when it doesn't work for me. When he's like got his super Iron Man suit and it's like talking to him and he's like kill, shoot, and laser beams and that. Like I find when it goes to that scale, I find it loses something. I wish this movie stayed more grounded at like friendly neighborhood level.
But
I
that's
think-
like completely part of the narrative.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
The whole struggle is like he wants to be an Avenger. When he talks to Tony Stark at the beginning of the movie, am I an Avenger yet? And he's like, this isn't a hug. This isn't. I'm just opening the car door.
Yeah, we're not there
past-
yet.
We're not. He says we're not there yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so he keeps overstepping and needing to get bailed out by Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And then his arc really is self-reliance. And he learns, like the whole movie, he wants to be an Avenger. And at the end, it's granted to him. He can become one of the Avengers, but he learns that what he wanted isn't what he needs. And what he needed was self-reliance. And then that's why he
Right.
has that scene where he lifts all those like girders and rocks and crap
Yeah.
off him, which actually was a pretty hokey scene.
Sure is.
Really?
He's like "Rrrr," to like
I
lift
don't know.
all the-
I thought that was awesome.
Well, except when he hands it, like he changes this grip, and then the things stay completely
was
stationary.
hokey.
That's
That
what
was a
it
bad
is.
shot.
Yeah, he has to switch from like I don't know, kind of like when you do like a clean and jerk or something, or snatch.
No, that was a weird shot. I didn't like that.
he gets under it and like the girders
Yeah.
are all staying in the same spot, and he moves his
Yeah.
body, and they don't
Yeah.
shift it all.
But I do
Okay.
I do love that moment. Like I love a good a good like finding the strength and just like going ham with willpower type of scene.
See, to me, that was the moment where I'm like, I like this movie, but it doesn't have the heart that I want. I find this movie doesn't have like that emotional core that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man's had.
So are you talking about scenes like in Spider-Man 2 when Tobey Maguire is holding the train back?
Yeah, that's such an iconic scene when the train is set off by Dr. Octopus and he has to like shoot the things, it fails, and then he just has to like by his raw strength hold it.
So his body's in front of the train.
And he's like, oh!
He's doing like an Iron Cross.
Yeah, and it's so epic, and then he saves it.
They do that in this movie.
But it's not nearly as epic.
They do that with
so let me finish. And so then the emotional moment isn't that. That's a good moment. It's when he falls down and that the New York people catch him and then they lift him over and they're like, careful, he's a hero. But it's like this emotional setup and payoff to those set piece moments that make it feel that like New York is part of Spider-Man and Spider-Man's part of New York. And there's like just an emotional undercurrent in those movies that I think isn't quite as present in these movies.
You're right. I got goosebumps just now remembering that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I don't think that you're wrong, but I think that these two movies have different emotional,
like tone.
Yeah,
for
backgrounds.
Sure, for sure.
Like that one. I think in the Sam Raimi movies, there is that definite like Spider-Man represents New York, and there's an association between him and like the people of New York. But I think in this one, it's more of an inward emotional journey where Spider-Man is discovering who he is and where he is most needed. And so that's where we get the emotional payoff is like in those moments, not so much because like you're right, there is sort of like an undercurrent of comedy in that scene in the ferry scene where it's like splitting apart and he's like, oh, I'm spidering it all
CG,
together
yeah.
super fast.
And then he does that Iron Crossing where he's holding the two halves together.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting because it's an obvious callback to that Sam Raimi Spider-Man. But yeah, no,
I
I think
feel it as deeply.
I don't think if they tried to do the exact same thing with the exact same emotional weight in that type of scene, I don't think it would have worked.
But I think this movie is more similar in a lot of ways because like there's a big section of the movie where Spider-Man doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore and he like gets forced to be a high schooler and he has like his I'm succeeding in high school and like Tobey Maguire was succeeding in university. And so like there's a lot of the same emotional beats. But I think that
characters.
Yeah, of course. But the focus is very different. I think the focus that went on making it an emotional experience in the Sam Raimi ones is now focused on fitting it neatly into the MCU.
Do you think that that emotional undercurrent was in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, or because what you're describing came from the second one?
Yeah,
for sure. And I think I'm choosing the second because I think that's the absolute best Spider-Man movie outside of Into the Spider-Verse.
But they had a movie to build up to that.
I think it's there in the first one. And I mean, some people would say the Sam Raimi ones kind of teeter on schmaltzy a little bit, and I'd say like there's a little bit of melodrama.
I don't like them.
You're wrong, but that's okay. I still love you.
It's okay, David. It's okay for me to not like things.
But I think for this one, it's way funnier. It's way more Spider-Man, and so in that way, I like it better. But I crave impact that this movie doesn't give me. Like, there's no point in this movie where I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I don't know. For me, I think I got that in the despite the silly switching grips part. I think I got that in that scene, and I also got it in the end scene where he's fighting the Vulture among the wreckage of the plane, and he sees that Vulture's wingsuit is going to explode, and he's like, "Your suit's going to explode," and he's like, "No, it's fine." And despite this guy trying to kill him for a long time, he saves his life despite that. I think I got a bit of it there.
Except he fails to save his life, and then it explodes, and there's no consequence.
What do you mean he saved? What?
He tries, and then the guy pulls away from the web, and he goes, and it still explodes, and then nothing happens. He doesn't die.
No, he falls into the wreckage, and if he didn't take him out of the fire, then he would have died in there.
But like the exploding,
he pulls him out.
I think that if they'd combined that moment into a bigger thing, where like having it be like this false drama of like, okay, the suit's gonna explode, you're gonna die, but not really.
He would have died if he didn't pull him out of the wreckage.
Yeah, but that's the second part. I'm talking about just the exploding didn't matter.
It did matter.
It didn't kill him. I think the explosion should have either killed him and like they should have stopped it. But having these, these two separate moments kind of ruined it for me.
It would have killed him if it exploded. He fell down, and then if Spider-Man didn't go in and take him out of the wreckage, he would have died.
I guess these are very nitpicky things. My bigger problem with the end is that I don't love it. I don't think that sequence is that awesome.
To me, it was
the end
like
sequence?
The whole like plane sequence. It's silly.
The big boss fight sequence.
Yeah, I think the whole thing's a little silly. Like Iron Man, the man with the best technology and defense on the planet, would just let all his valuables go on like an unprotected plane with, okay, sure, stealth technology, but stealth technology that is absolutely useless to like radar. And like it's very silly to me that like Happy would be in charge of moving all this stuff, and like there would be no defenses to it. Like, why isn't there like 5 of 600 Iron Man suits also accompanying it? Like, it seems just so hokey that there's no.
I completely
defense.
agree with you. That doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, I think in every MCU movie, my brain just like I watch a Star Wars movie and I ask all these questions. I watched Lord of the Rings and I'm like, there's all these rules.
There's nothing wrong with Lord of the Rings.
No, I'm just saying that I'm thinking about these universe details.
For sure.
And whether they're internally consistent. With the MCU, I kind of shut that part off my brain. And I know that that's not fair. Like if we're saying that the MCU is one of the greatest franchises of all time in terms of like its like breadth across all of these movies, then we should be able to ask those questions, but I just shut that part of my brain
I think that's
off.
totally fair.
It's
and
fine.
I think it's only this rewatch when I'm watching it with a very critical eye did I notice these things. Like I have a list of nitpicks.
And why can Spider-Man like be unsure of whether or not he can hold on to the Washington Monument because it's really high up and the wind is blowing? He's like, "Woo!" It looks like he's gonna get blown off, but then he can hang on to a goddamn cargo plane.
Yeah.
In the stratosphere.
He's just scared of heights in that.
But that's so silly. Spider-Man is not afraid of heights because
Well, this Spider-Man might be.
he also has
he's
no.
very early.
He also has no spider sense. That bothered me a lot in this movie. There's a lot of like things that just surprise him, and I'm like, no, that's not Spider-Man.
Oh, I saw a thing. I saw a thing about people saying that there's no spider
Yeah, apparently
sense.
they had to clarify later, like in a press conference. Like, yeah, he does have spider sense. Don't worry.
They just don't show like macro shots of his hair standing on end.
Not even that, but just like there's a ton of times where like things will just appear. Like Vulture appears out of the smoke, and he's just like, "Oh no!" Or like the guy punches the bus, and he like doesn't get out of the way. But like Spider-Man would get out of the way.
There is certainly a level on which this movie seems kind of like the MCU guys do a Spider-Man movie instead of like it being a real Spider-Man movie. Like you watch Into the Spider-Verse and you're like, this is such a love letter to the franchise. There's all these references. Everything is like completely consistent and makes sense, and characters are the way they act is great. And I think in this movie, I get what you're saying, where there's like a little bit of a, Tony Stark made a Spider-Man suit, so we take away. Do we even know if Peter Parker made his own web shooters?
Well, I had a question about that because we see him make his own web shooters, or at least his own goop.
In chemistry class.
He makes it, and I love that. It's such a quick moment. And you're like, "Oh, he's smart. He's doing his own stuff. Cool. Yeah, he's in high school."
Yeah.
But then the Iron Man suit is able to take his web shooters and alter the web shooter
they have
fire.
Like 576.
And I was
different...
like, wait, did he spy on him? Is he just so smart that he could predict what Peter would have done?
Yeah.
Like that seems like such a little inconsistency that I didn't.
I really don't like that aspect of it, but the next movie kind of addresses that in one scene in particular. This isn't a spoiler. There's a scene in the next movie where Peter Parker has access to Tony Stark's like research lab or whatever, and he's tasked with like creating a suit, and so he goes and makes the suit himself. So I like that because it does show that he like has more active role in it, and I think that kind of thing for comics fans, it's hard to kind of like acclimate to, where it's like, hey, this isn't the Peter Parker, this isn't the MJ, this isn't the Aunt May that I'm used to from the lore. But I think that this movie takes a bunch of new ideas and spins them around and gives a really good movie with
Totally. I agree. And I think they have a really good sense of what people want to see and what we have seen. And they provide us like a good kind of mix of things we haven't seen.
Exactly. That's why I'm not mad at him being in this wacky suit that's
very
fair. Different. Because like, we've seen this Spider-Man origin like four...
Yeah,
how many movies? Like, enough's enough.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because when I was watching this movie, I was like, wait, I did have questions about where... Like how did the Spider-Man start doing stuff?
Uncle Ben died.
I know.
Great power, great responsibility.
On one level, I was like, oh, well, I want to see it. And on the other level, I was like, yes, this makes sense because we've had like 4 different Spider-Man.
I love how they
stories.
introduce Spider-Man using that like movie Peter Parker made, a film by Peter Parker.
Yeah.
The iPhone movie.
I wanted to bring that up.
That's so good, man.
It's brilliant.
First of all, it says he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's a digital native. He's
right.
He's on Snapchat.
At the same time, I'm like, who's he going to show this to?
I think
he can't show it to anybody.
Except, I was thinking that. I'm like, oh, it's like on Instagram because it's a 1x1 frame.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, it's just on his phone. No phone shoots 1x1.
Maybe it's just for posterity. But did this movie come out after Guardians of the Galaxy? Yes. Because I get the feeling, because it started with that whole like... I think a lot of MCU movies up to Guardians of the Galaxy took sort of like they were funny, but they took kind of a self-serious tone where they're like, this is a superhero movie. We're talking about big stakes here, blah, blah, blah. And Guardians of the Galaxy kind of brought it back down with all these like, the 80s mixtape and stuff, and it like made it a lot more human. And I think that that's what this sequence does in this movie. It kind of makes him more of like, we see him just being a kid. And there's a lot of like funny moments in that kind of vlog that he does. Like when he's like he's in his room and he's like dealing with the camera or whatever, and then Happy knocks on the door. He does like a quick like crazy backflip backwards and like opens the door. He's like, "We have thin walls here."
Yeah, it's great. I think it's probably as funny as Guardians. It's a hilarious movie. I laughed many times.
It's very funny.
I laughed many times.
Tom Holland is great casting, and I always forget he's British. I'm like, oh yeah,
and a gymnast.
Yeah, he's very acrobatic.
Hey, how did they shoot that scene where he's crawling on his own ceiling and then it's all like a one take and then he's standing on the floor? I tried to look it up and I got conflicting things. So in one interview I read, it said that he had a harness under his suit so he was actually on the ceiling, and then there was a pulley system that went up and he kind of like walked along a track, and then I guess they just released it and he goes and stands.
Yeah,
but then I saw another thing where they actually did build his room upside down.
Yeah.
With like the bed on the ceiling so that he could. So I don't know, maybe they just used both.
Maybe different parts of the movie.
I figured that they had the room upside down, and then at some point they kind of did like a morph cut and like switched it around.
The special effect that I wondered about is the first time he pulls off his clothes and he has the Spider-Man suit that he's putting on, but it's all loose, and he like hits the button and goes. Why do you think they shot that?
I don't know. I really like that part because
Totally.
you never see the full suit getting put on in any superhero movie. It's always just like, open my shirt and you see the Superman logo and then we cut. And then the next, now I'm fully dressed. You never get to see him like, it's all baggy, my leg isn't in all the way. That was great.
Do you remember, wait. I had a question about that scene. Do you guys remember in that scene, are the sleeves of the suit, are they all one thing, including the hands, including the gloves?
I think so.
Or do they stop at the wrists and then he has to put gloves on? I think it's all one thing, right?
Because later on, doesn't he have
Because later on, he's wearing the suit under his clothes and he like pulls back his sleeve and it like the suit stops at the wrist. So that's
garbage.
Gotcha. Gotcha, John Watts. Big mistake. Never have me watch one of your movies.
I had a question.
Yes.
So they go to the academic decathlon and Peter goes missing because he's chasing the vulture, and he goes missing for a full day.
There's no way that people don't know that it's... Sorry, go ahead.
They are not panicked that a student is missing. That really bothers me.
Everyone is way too chill.
Hey, Peter, where were you? And it's
I can't believe you
they
were
would be
gone.
calling the police like, holy crap, their student's missing. We're so screwed.
They set that up, man.
What do you mean?
They kind of set it up because the teacher who's the chaperone on that trip is that Guilfoyle from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And there's that one joke where it's like, we can't have a student. I can't lose a student on this trip. Not again.
But wouldn't he be more panicked though if he felt that way?
No, it's because the reason it happened the first time
He's like,
he's negligent.
Oh, it's just 'cause
he's negligent. He's like, oh crap.
No, by the fifth time or something that he's just like, I'm sorry, I gotta go, and he just like bugs out. No pun intended. It like bothered me that no one is like asking more questions about why this guy always disappears all the time.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man shows up.
Do you know what's my absolute favorite thing of this movie?
What?
Flash. Love that guy.
Again, Again, can we just talk about how they reimagine the world? Like,
Oh yeah.
it's so cool that, I mean, okay, not to get too SJW on you guys, but they did need to put some diversity into the property.
I like how we have to give this
There's
trigger
just so
warning
many
every
people-
time.
warning.
It's a
There's
trigger
so
warning
many
for
people
the.
in our audience who think we're like super SJWs and like, you guys just don't live in cities.
Yeah.
We're like very center.
In Canadian cities. All right. Sorry, we're from Canada. All right. Continue. Tony Revolori, Flash.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's like, okay, that we don't need another. Why can't he just be Indian? Who cares? And the whole time I'm watching that guy, I thought, is that the kid from Hereditary? I'm so wrong. I'm so wrong. It's the dude from Grand Budapest Hotel. I didn't even recognize him.
I love him. I love that the take they have on his character, because he's normally like just a big like muscle jock, but he's just like this wiener kid. But he's just like, I love it at the party when he's like DJ Flash, and he's like,
Flash.
and he's just like, when I say penis, you say Parker, you penis Parker.
Yeah, he
penis,
is a
Parker.
bully though.
Oh, it's great, but he's a modern bully.
He still has that vibe.
I love that he's like a modern bully. Like he's not like a big giant guy. Like I'm gonna beat you up. It's just like I'm going to constantly break you down with
So good.
with one-liners.
Although, so at the party, Peter leaves because he has more important things to do, and then he's about to come back. Ned calls him. He's like, "Hey, you shouldn't come back." And there's the penis Parker bit. That's the time Spider-Man should go. That's when he should show up and be like, "Hey, I'm Spider-Man. Peter Parker's pretty cool. You shouldn't call him Penis Parker."
But I think I liked that and the other bits of characterization in this movie that really reveal that Ned and Peter are freaking nerds. Like they are not confident of themselves. They are super into all of this nerdy crap, and they're not the cool kids.
It's true.
And I loved that second guessing yourself and lack of self-confidence. I really got that from them, and I feel like you don't get that. That's the benefit of making this movie like a really embedded in high school type of movie.
And they've nailed that, I think, better than any Spider-Man movie. Better than Into the Spider-Verse. Certainly better than the Andrew Garfield ones where he's like the coolest dude ever.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tobey Maguire's just like this weird mopey loner dude.
Yeah.
He's just not a nerd. He's just different.
I like that part because they're in the suburbs and he has to be Spider-Man, but he can't swing on anything. And then he just ends up sprinting. This sucks. Sorry about your shed.
It's like a really long shot of him just running across a golf course.
It's a great set piece.
Yeah.
It's another kind of subversion of what we've seen before, which is great.
It's so good.
Talking about the reimagining the world, there's a literal passing of the torch in terms of diversity when you've got the original Shocker, the guy you were talking about who just looks like Ed Hardy.
Yeah.
And then he gets kind of accidentally on purpose killed. And then Toombs actually picks up his weapon and hands it to the black guy and it's like, look, now you're the Shocker.
Yeah.
And it's very explicit.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of weird to have the Shocker be such a background. He's not even the Shocker. He's just a guy who has this thing. Because in the comics, the Shocker is very much
his own standalone
full-on
character.
villain.
But he's a B villain though.
Yeah, he
is.
It's
up there with Rhino and
he's the first
and Vulture,
villain.
frankly.
He's the first bad guy you always take on in each video game.
Yeah, exactly. First boss.
Oh yeah, I think I remember him. Yeah.
I haven't played the PS4 one, but I've played some of the other ones.
He's a king. Isn't he a Kingpin henchman? Doesn't he work for Kingpin? Here's my question for you though. So it's like they tried to make it as kind of modern and diverse representation of America as they could have, which is with every character other than Spider-Man and I guess the Vulture, they made them Ned is Filipino and
people of color.
The women are black, but they didn't do it with Spider-Man. They couldn't. Is that where people have been outraged? Because let's say there's a Fantastic Four movie where they made the Human Torch black. I don't know if people cared or not.
Well, I think with Spider-Man in particular, there is no reason to make Peter Parker black because you got Miles Morales.
Well, that was what I was going to say. It's after this movie comes out a couple of years later, you just get a full-on
and I think
mixed race Spider-Man.
I think we're gonna get that. I think that's where it's going because Childish Gambino is in this movie, as I mentioned in my synopsis. Donald Glover.
He's awesome in this movie.
And he's great.
So funny.
And he is I think he's supposed to be Miles Morales' uncle or something.
He's the Prowler.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the character for the Prowler.
Is his character's name the Prowler character's name?
Yeah, Aaron Davis. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good setup. And people before this movie, before Tom Holland was cast, people wanted Donald Glover to be the new Spider-Man.
Oh, way too old though.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
He was sweet in this movie, but I can't see him being the Prowler because he was high in this movie. He was so stoned, man.
Well, he just switches from
Why are you trying to upsell me, man?
Yeah, upsell me, man. I like that. He's like, look, I'm just looking for something to help me stick up somebody, not to send somebody back in time. And then the guy's rummaging through the thing and he's like, okay, what do we got here? We got some blah, 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 anti-grav climbers. And he's like, yo, climbers?
I later on, he's like, man, I got ice cream in here.
Yeah, man, this movie's so great. I love this movie.
If there was a heart to this movie, I guess it would be the Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland relationship.
Let's
and
talk about it.
That's pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I think that is the heart of the movie. I think that it's a bit confusing to me though, because clearly Tony Stark is telling. I don't know what the message is. I know that you said earlier, James, that he has to learn self-reliance, but for me, I was wondering whether the message of the movie is more know your place, but in a good way. Not oh, you're not cool like me, you're a piece of crap, piece of crap. But it's more know where you come from and don't forget that. Don't forget the little guy,
What makes you think that?
Well, because his whole dream is to become one of the Avengers, is to be somebody bigger than who he is. He's like, I don't want to be with protecting my neighborhood. I don't want to be just like regular neighborhood Spider-Man. That's boring. That's lame. I want to be this cool Avenger. I want to have the cool suit. I want to join the cool kids. And it's more like, no, like, that'll come later. But like for now, just take care of your own and like take care of who you need to in this moment.
I guess that's part of it. Because he makes the decision at the end to be like, this is the right scale for me right now. I'm going to keep doing this. But I don't think that the way you're describing it is like the intention of like the narrative thrust. I think it's pretty clear that like there's 3 big set pieces in the movie. In the first 2, he fails and Iron Man needs to bail him out.
Yep.
And on the third one, Iron Man's not there and he's like, I'm done. I'm screwed. No, I'm not. I can do this. And he makes it himself.
But are you saying that if he had learned his lesson then in that in the fight with the Vulture where he gets like knocked into the lake or whatever, if he had learned his lesson, then he would have just gotten himself out? Because I think that the lesson there is more like you're trying to bite off more than you can chew. It's not like you should be better. You should learn to rely on yourself so you can deal with all of this stuff. It's more like, know what you can take on.
It's that, but he also does increase in competence.
He does. Yeah.
So it's both.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm not trying to bash your...
I think you guys are right. I think that's kind of like the central idea of the movie, but I think it's undercut by the fact that the next time Spider-Man's in a movie, he's on a galactic scale again.
Yeah.
And like that kind of undercuts this idea of like, okay, I have to focus on what I can do when immediately after he's declined being an Avenger, he'll become an Avenger.
But that didn't bother me as much because he had accepted, what he needs to do, which is like be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for a bit. And then when the time comes, when he's actually needed, then he gets pulled into it, because he's...
And I mean, we can
time.
only expect so much from an MCU movie. I found myself on this rewatch wishing there was a little bit of commentary on rich versus the poor. I feel like this movie is set up for that because like the villain is a blue collar man who rises to power because he gets an opportunity. Spider-Man is trained by an ultra rich person, but he's impoverished.
Right.
And I feel like there's a setup that would be really interesting to explore. And I mean, it's a Disney movie. I don't know what I'm expecting.
I guess they would have, if they were going to do that, they would have done it between Vulture and Parker. I think that would have been like some comments from Vulture saying like, "Yeah, work hard, you can be like me," or something like that.
They did try to shoehorn a little bit of the inequality conversation in when you guys know what I'm talking about, right? When Peter he
confronts him at his home base.
He's in the car and he's like, "Oh, show my daughter a good time now, and I won't kill you or whatever." And he leaves his phone in the car, so he's able to track Toombs to that warehouse. And then he comes up upon him in the warehouse, and Toombs gives this little speech about, like, they don't care about us.
I actually like that.
It's speech, like it's you and I, man. We got to fight for what we can get, but like it's easy for them to do whatever, and they don't care about us.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
I like that speech, and I like how cordial Adrian is. I find he's a good character. He's like one of the few Marvel villains that gets a pass from me.
You know what? I will agree with you. I think he is a good character, but I think that Michael Keaton was maybe the wrong choice.
Do you know who was the other choice?
What? Who?
Mark Hamill. What do you think about that? Would that have been a good or a bad? He feels a little too old.
I love Mark Hamill.
I can't see him flying around.
I don't know if he can pull off that kind of character. I don't know.
Because there's no real reason that this guy...
I feel like he'd be too cheesy.
Setting aside the fact that I don't really believe that these people whose job it is to like make scrap and like tear down buildings, I don't really believe that they could be engineers to the degree that they take alien weapons.
Thank you.
Like, that's kind of hokey, even if it does take them 8 years. Like, maybe they should start as just engineers and then be like state-of-the-art engineers and not just start as like, we're just blue-collar people, like, and then they turn out to be amazing scientists. That's just kind of hokey to me. But even setting that aside, then they use that ability to make weapons of all things. So they could have just made revolutionary technology, but okay, fine. If they're going to make weapons with it and make like a Vulture suit and fly around, I don't really see Mark Hamill doing that.
Yeah. I think he doesn't have the physicality of it.
Well, I think I'm just thinking of it in terms of like, I don't know. I think he would be a bit too cheesy. So I think that Michael Keaton comes across with a little bit more of like an everyman vibe.
But he also has that like, he's kind of crazy edge. He's got that look to him where you're like, oh, you're kind of...
I think that's what I'm... talking about? I don't know. Like Michael Keaton kind of comes across in this movie as like acting. He thinks he's acting in a 90s movie.
Should have been Bob Saget.
But it's a 20.
He's got those
2010s.
eyebrows.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that I've seen him play 2 other flight-based animal superheroes.
When?
Birdman.
Well, he's
Birdman. You're right.
Batman and Birdman, and now he's the Vulture. He's got a
That's funny.
shtick.
He's got a thing.
I know
He's
Hamill
nozzle.
played the Joker in the 90s Batman, so he's
No.
been a villain.
Oh, totally. He can totally be a villain, but he's a voice actor in that context.
That's
I
right.
think that if Mark Hamill played a live-action Joker, he would be. I don't want to say he would be horrible, but I don't think people would accept it.
I think he would be world-breaking because he's just too recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's
love
too
Mark
strongly
Hamill.
associated with Luke Skywalker.
I love Mark Hamill because he's like a cartoony guy.
So then who should be the Vulture? I think it should be Uncle Joey from Full House.
Stamos? Oh, wait, no. Is Uncle Joey the funny one?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
Stamos. Yeah.
No, not Stamos. Who? Maybe like a Kevin Costner?
That's so similar to Michael Keaton.
I know,
pretty damn
but I
similar.
think Kevin
It's more
Costner
of a
could do a bit
dad
more of
vibe.
like a. I think Kevin Costner could do
Yeah.
a bit more of like a serious thing that I take seriously.
Denzel.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Training Day vibe.
Denzel
That'd
would
be
be
interesting
good.
because
Yeah.
he's good at kind of going between like really crazy intense and like
Yeah.
more subdued.
Because he's intimidating even when he's your friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want to go back real quick to something you were talking about, how these like junker guys are making these advanced weapons and stuff. Like the Vulture suit. The Vulture suit seems to me to be like as advanced as the Iron Man suit. Like those
Well-
wings are crazy,
Well,
dude.
it's not as
The
advanced.
aerodynamics of that.
It's crazy
These
advanced.
guys are junkers.
Yeah. It's crazy advanced, but it's not as advanced as the Iron Man suit because the form factor. The Iron Man suit is way more like
No, but that's what I'm saying is that
Sleek.
the Iron Man suit has to like fit all these things into this like singular thing. But like in terms of like the animal like operation and stuff,
really
he's got
beautifully-
like a neural link with it or something where he can like treat the wings like their fingers. That part where he like snaps
He does lots of
Spider-Man's
snipping.
webs. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I don't know.
there's a huge
That made me out. And also the other thing about these guys, real quick, is his friend, his like second in command, who's like the primary engineer dude. He seems way too nice to be like making advanced weapons to sell to criminals.
I think they chose him because he's in comedies usually, and I think they chose him because they wanted to not go too intense on the villainy.
And I think that he was well casted in that regard because he does provide some comic relief, and him and some of the other guys make them feel a bit more approachable or more realistic as like actual people. But
I can believe it, man. There's like, imagine
What?
he has. If you're a tinkerer like him, where else are you gonna get to do that? You can stay in a job for.
yeah, but he just
reasons
seems like
that.
a nice guy, and he's selling weapons to terrorists.
But he's
basically.
obsessed with vacuum seals.
I have a question. So even before the Vulture becomes the Vulture, when he's just lost his job, there's a scene at his hideout where they're like hanging out, and this is a huge space with like nice couches, TVs, and like workbenches. Why does he have that? He's just
Wait,
like a
what?
random junker. Like
He's not a random junker. Like you can make obviously good money being blue collar, especially if you're the one who owns the company.
You're talking
But
about
like,
his
are you
house or
having?
their-
No. It's before the house. Because the house, I assumed it was when he had the LM technology and started selling
Right.
it. But before all that, he had like this home base for his work, and it's huge, and it's like a nice lounge area for his employees. And like when you're done work at your construction site, do you really want to go hang out at your boss's like office and like watch TV? Like I don't think so.
I don't know, man. I think he just has
Yeah,
this.
this is like the chillest.
He has a
criminal
successful.
game.
He has a successful small business that's successful enough to win contracts from the government, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I did construction, I was getting the fuck out of there as quick as I could. I don't want to hang out with my boss.
See,
No,
he's a
thanks.
good guy. He took in, his workers have nowhere else to go. So they're like, where are they going to play Xbox?
You're right, it's not a
Not
contrived
at home.
villain
They don't have an
home base.
Xbox. Yeah. Toombs has got one. Toombs is so cool. Toombs is
Toombs
the
is
best
so
boss
cool.
ever, man. He's got a weird bird thing, but love him.
They just catch him
He's like my
drawing like
dad.
bird hentai, and they're like,
Jeez
"What the
Louise.
heck?"
Oh.
How about when MJ gives him the finger at the prom? I
Yeah, that's
love
great.
that.
Yeah, no, it's a great
Yeah.
bit of characterization.
She's so good. She's gonna be in Dune, by the way.
Yeah.
Zendaya.
No, Zendaya's great.
Yeah.
What did I see recently with her?
Spider-Man 2.
No, the big top, big circus, big.
Oh, Greatest Showman.
Yep, that's the one.
It's a bad movie.
No, yeah, it's not that great, but she's good.
Do you know who's underutilized in this movie? And it always makes me sad because it seems like every movie he's in, he's underutilized. Hannibal Buress.
I love that guy.
The funniest person on this entire planet, and he gets like 1-2 jokes. Like,
Well,
they need to get more out of him.
I love how Marvel movies just have that kind of like clout where they can just get guys in there to play like bit parts.
Yeah.
But Hannibal Buress has his own movie, doesn't he?
Huh?
Hasn't he been like
He's a comedian.
He's Blade.
funny Blade?
I would love that. That would be so
The tiniest eyes like blinking behind his glasses.
Oh my gosh.
whack.
Freaking vampires. Get out of here, man.
That's a movie I would pay like $100 to see. I love Hannibal Buress.
Ain't gonna suck my blood.
How about that? The scene with the second scene with Donald Glover when Spider-Man has that interrogation mode turned on. He's got the deep voice.
That's so funny. I love it.
Man, the other there's so many great moments. The Captain America
Yeah.
videos.
There's so many memes about
So
that.
your body's changing. Let's talk about that.
I love it. Yeah, this movie nails the comedy.
It has a bit of the emotional beats too. Like when they're in Washington, it's the night before they go to the academic decathlon thing, and everyone's gonna go swimming, and his crush is like, "Come swimming." And he's like, "Ugh,
Yeah,
I
I
want it so
know.
bad," but he doesn't. That's like the first glimpse we've seen in the theme of Spider-Man that we always see, which is the sacrifices in his personal life that he has to make in order to be Spider-Man. I think they pulled that off nicely.
Great power, great responsibility, dude.
That's not in this movie, so it doesn't exist.
But we see the spirit of it.
But can we
You're
go-
gonna have to give up some after hours pool parties, dude.
That reminds me of what we almost talked about earlier when we were talking about the relationship with him and Stark, because there's no Uncle Ben. There's no father figure.
Right.
And so Stark is that surrogate father, and they almost nudge you into thinking that because Stark keeps bringing up his dad.
Yeah.
You know, my dad never did this for me. And then he goes on and gives a speech.
They
or
make it
whatever.
really explicit there.
I love how they escalate it too. Like the first time that he's chastising Peter, he's not actually there. And he's like at that party in India, and he's just like putting the drink down. And the Iron Man suit's like holding the drink, and you're like, wait, what? And then I love that. But then the second time, Peter's like, you're not even here. Like, you don't care. And he steps out of the suit and he chastises him.
That's a great setup and
good
payoff.
moment. Totally.
Yeah. And I don't know whether I like it or hate it, but Tony Stark seems kind of like a crappy dad.
Yeah.
In this movie, like he is doing he is mentoring him and supporting him in that way, but he kind of like screws it up, sort of like to the point where, in the end, when he is like rewarding him for taking out the Vulture or whatever and saving the transport, I'm like, he was doing the exact same thing you told him not to do,
Yeah, it doesn't.
and he rewards
really
him
make
for
sense.
it. He's like, hey, keep your nose out of big stuff. But because you saved one of my transports, now you get to join the Avengers.
Yeah, it's pretty weak value.
Yeah, it actually kind of bothered me in the end.
But is that in line with his character though?
I think that's
Kind of.
fair.
It's kind of on brand, actually.
No, it's
he would
definitely
be
on
a
brand.
crappy father.
yeah, it's definitely on brand. And I think that kind of takes away maybe some of the emotional strength of the movie, because if he had like a really good father figure, then you might be like, oh man, I'm feeling this emotional connection. He's learning something. But as it is, it's like they're both just kind of like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. It seems honestly more like Tony is treating Peter like a investment instead of like, I actually care about you as a person.
It's interesting. I never really missed the Uncle Ben scene in this movie. I don't want it, but there's an emotional undercurrent of redemption that's missing in this, and I think that's kind of what drives the other Spider-Man movies, is that he has to redeem himself and prove that like he's worth what Ben paid, like
Because
he's worth
he
his
has
life.
the original sin of having not intervened.
Right.
Totally.
Wasn't proactive enough.
Yeah.
He didn't intervene, and he kind of like lets Ben get killed
Totally, and
indirectly.
It's not mentioned in this movie, which is nice. It's refreshing, but I think because they chose to go that way, they might have replaced it with some kind of other need for redemption. And I don't think that's in this movie.
It's interesting. It's actually kind of the opposite. He's like not proactive enough, and he has to become more proactive and more competent as it goes on in the other movies. But in this movie, he's like too proactive. He's trying to bite off more than he can chew, and he has to dial that back until he is competent enough.
That's interesting.
Is there something with like he sort of caused that Washington Monument explosion?
Well, yeah, because he's the reason that Ned has the purple stone.
But that's not necessarily because of like a personal failing on his part. It's
No,
just he
I
forgot.
That's not keeping him up at night.
Yeah. No,
It's
I
an
think
okay-
you're right.
It's like an okay sequence. I don't love that.
It'd be nice to.
Washington one.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think that really makes it more of like a coming of age thing, and maybe that is the reason that there's less emotional weight. You just don't have that kind of shadow looming over.
Right.
Of
Also,
that guilt.
The score is so much less good. The Danny Elfman score in the Sam Raimi ones is the money. This one's just like it's you gotta watch them again.
It's
You haven't watched them in like
it's
10
just
years.
cheesy.
It's recognizable,
I don't know. Like
though.
I honestly, I just think that I don't think Spider-Man ever really got to me emotionally. I don't. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man's never really got to me emotionally on that level. I feel like I don't know. They were all just kind of.
You never
goofy.
reenacted an upside down kiss?
No, and I never wanted to either.
You never dressed up as Spider-Man on Halloween and kissed somebody upside
That was
down?
so awkward.
That's a great.
Anybody who
That's a great movie moment.
you like that moment?
That's a classic movie
it's
moment.
so weird.
That's
Toby
the kind of movie moment when like Miramax or something has one of those weird montages.
Oh,
like, you know, at the
totally.
beginning.
I'm not saying it's not iconic. It definitely is iconic, but I didn't like it personally because like I just don't like Tobey Maguire. I don't like his face.
No, I hate his
lips
face.
are too big.
I don't wanna kiss
in that kiss, you could just like see the awkwardness of it. I'm just like, that wouldn't be comfortable.
I think that the movie is designed around his awkwardness, though. It doesn't pretend like he's cool in a like non-functional way. I don't know. I think it's worth revisiting. Maybe we'll do Spider-Man 2 because I think that's, other than Into the Spider-Verse, that's the best Spider-Man movie yet.
But
The
I don't
reason is
want
because
to.
of minimal goblining. I hated when I was like 13. Finally, Spider-Man's coming out. Hell yeah! Go to the theater and Goblin's just like a helmet. I wanted it to be green skin, baby.
You know what it was?
What was it, Riley?
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I think, always had a bit of like a Batman feel when I wanted like a Spider-Verse feel. Like I think like watching those Spider-Man movies, in my mind, Spider-Man was this like wisecracking, super smart, like super comfortable with himself, confident kind of character. And Tobey Maguire came out. He's like super awkward. He's trying his best. The movies are very self-serious. Like there's some silly moments, especially in 3, but like he, for the most part, a lot of it is very self-serious. And like we have these really emotional moments and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. And I'm just like, that's for Batman or that's for Superman or something, you know, that's not for Spider-Man. Spider-Man's supposed to be like, hey, I'm the cool, crazy Spider-Man guy.
But basically,
whip,
PG
swinging
Deadpool.
around. What?
PG Deadpool.
Exactly.
See, I totally agree. And I think if that was the only Spider-Man we ever had, that would be kind of a shame. But we've had 3 wisecracking Spider-Mans now. So it's actually kind of refreshing to go back and have a different flavor.
Yeah,
And
maybe. You're right.
And
He is wisecracking though.
sort of. He gets like a couple lines.
In
They're always,
the scene with the ATM when they have the Avenger masks on.
Oh, this one. Yeah, he's definitely wisecracking.
Which one are you
in this
talking about?
Sam, Tobey Maguire. He's
Okay.
not particularly. He has a couple like one-liners.
There's
like,
a couple of them because
like, see you on the other side. I don't know.
his voice.
swing
was
you later.
But I think that there's a sarcastic tone to the later Spider-Man movies, kind of like the MCU postmodernist take on superheroes that loses that self-serious, genuine heart that I think I kind of miss a little bit in superhero movies.
I think I totally agree with you there. I love seeing that heart, but I think I just, in my mind, I don't associate that with Spider-Man. I think I associate it with, Superman.
Do you have non-cinematic Spider-Man like associations? Comic book, animated series.
Associations.
like,
like-
did you read lots
like,
of
do
comics?
Do you have any nostalgia for anything
am I
that's
in a
not a
club?
movie? Like, is all your Spider-Man knowledge come from just the Sam Raimi movies?
No.
What do you got?
I don't know.
60s cartoon? Ba-da-da. Anything?
No, I didn't really watch the 60s cartoon. I think that honestly, I don't know.
Because
Well, there's your problem.
you're not wrong. He's not quite Spider-Man. It's
Yeah.
something different, but that's fine. Just open your heart. Let Tobey Maguire
I
kiss
think
your
maybe-
soft, supple.
Maybe it
muscles.
wasn't that like maybe it's just that in the few iterations of Spider-Man I saw where he was this kind of wisecracking guy, I was like, oh, that seems more natural to this character who's kind of like, he's from Queens. He's a down and like, he's not like a super hoity-toity guy or whatever. He's like a man of the salt of the earth type guy, blue collar person. So I feel like I expected more of that character. I don't know. I don't know.
That's fair.
Well, this isn't a review of those Spider-Mans.
Well,
You're
maybe
right.
We might.
Well, that's why I love,
David's just trying to make it happen.
that's
I
why I
love
love this movie
Spider-Man
and
too.
Into the Spider-Verse. Man, we got to do Into the Spider-Verse at some point.
So good. That's the
The
best
thing,
one.
we were discussing this, and the problem is it hasn't been long enough. nor is it recent enough. Like, it's, like a year or two ago I saw it in the theater.
What?
It's too soon for me to want to watch it
This movie is
again.
2017,
It's about the same time.
but it's MCU, and we're doing MCU
yeah.
stuff.
Maybe we'll do Into the Spider-Verse when the second one starts peeping its
Are
head
they
over
doing
the
that?
horizon. Probably.
Oh, heck
They
yeah.
made a lot of money.
Is that known, though? Is that a thing?
Sony does that kind of thing.
You're-
I'll
this
bet
is speculative.
you $20 that
No,
they'll be
I
Into
think
the
they definitely
Spider-Verse
are.
soon.
I heard that they are, I think. I mean, they started a whole Spider-Verse. You got to explore it. No, and the end of the movie had that, it had
Yeah,
like a
it's a
lead
thing.
into the next one
It's a thing.
with the Hispanic Spider-Man.
Yeah, we're in the era of Miles Morales, and I love it.
yeah,
I'm
that's
so
sick that they're
excited.
doing that video game.
Oh, it looks so good.
Did you play the first video game?
I didn't finish it. My save file broke where I was stuck in the middle of a building or something. And later on, I was
Multiple
like,
save
I
files.
should have just fast traveled out of that building, but I would just would load it up, forget that I was stuck, and I'd be like spend 5 minutes trying to get out, and I was like, oh,
But you can fast travel?
You can fast travel, I
Oh,
think, yeah.
man. You should load it back up.
Nah.
I mean, I never played
It's
it.
good, but it's like the Arkham games, but Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
So
So
it's-
it's not like you're going on a journey and by the end of it you're crying.
No.
No. It's just fun.
There's some good stuff, though, and there's a really good Doc Ock story that they kind of have a more dramatic weight.
Yeah.
And there's some cool stuff. It's really good, and if you like Spider-Man, it's definitely worth playing.
I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan. Did I give the impression I'm a huge Spider-Man fan?
Hey, wait, were people mad in that scene in, is it Avengers? The first one, I think it's the first time that Spider-Man's in the MCU.
In Civil War?
When is it Civil War where he's
Yeah.
at the airport scene?
Yeah.
People didn't like that scene?
Some people didn't. They thought he was too wisecracking because he's like, I think it's Bucky and Falcon or something are fighting him, and he's constantly quipping while they're all fighting, and they didn't like that, but I like it.
I liked it.
Me too.
I like this, especially after we've had so many Spider-Mans, to see one that just feels so natural and feels so like an actual just kid in the suit. Because I feel like I actually didn't see any of the Andrew Garfield ones, but what I heard was that it's like the wisecracking and stuff was really forced, and he actually seemed kind of like an asshole.
Yeah, he's not. I think, but the charm of this one is that he really does sell as a nerd,
Yeah.
and an outcast. But Andrew Garfield felt like the cool kid,
Right.
And so when he's punching down, it's not nearly as funny.
Peter Parker just seems like he's like, I'm just happy to be
Yeah.
here. Oh, it's so nice to meet you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, and his wisecracks don't even really, they're not even like disses. They're kind of just like he's naive. He's just
Yeah.
saying weird things, thinking out loud.
Yeah.
yeah. I love this movie.
I love how he puts on the voice. Or there's the interrogation scene, but then also when he's in the elevator holding in the Washington Monument, he's like, hey, everybody, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he does a Brooklyn voice. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, everybody, no problem. Hey, you're going to be safe.
You know what? I think why this movie works at balancing comedy and drama well is that it gets momentum both ways. I think the bad MCU movies will undercut drama with one joke, and then they're back to drama, and then back to one joke.
Right.
This one builds up 5 dramatic beats, and then it'll undercut it with 2-3 jokes, and then it gets swinging both ways. Like that Washington Monument scene, there's 5 dramatic beats of him climbing, saving them. Okay, he saves everybody, and then he gets the voice in his ear that's like, you should kiss her, and he kind of goes for a second, and then he just drops, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the teacher's like, thanks, Spider-Man, and then Flash reaches over and he's like, hey. Oh, do you know Peter Parker? And they don't just undercut it with one joke. They actually take the time to kind of push the needle both ways. Ugh, they're really good at that.
I think I get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
didn't at first, but now I get it.
Yeah.
No, I love that. But you just reminded me that the AI in this...
Karen.
he calls her Karen, which is so funny.
Yeah.
And prescient. So prescient.
Yes.
Karen's huge memes now.
No.
The AI in this movie and in other MCU movies, I don't know. I guess in this universe they just have basically fully self-aware AI.
But it's all
to the point
related
where
to Tony
she's telling
Stark.
him, to the point where she's telling him to kiss a girl.
That's weird.
She's giving him dating advice. She's the suit
Tony
AI.
Stark had to program that into her. So if this happens, if these parameters are, then...
Yeah.
But do you guys know that she's voiced by Jennifer Connelly, who's the wife of
Oh, I didn't know.
Jarvis?
Oh, wait a second. What do you
Oh,
mean the
the
wife?
actor?
He's married to Paul Bettany,
Paul Bettany in
who's
real
the
life.
voice.
That's weird.
Yeah. But she was cast actually, well, apparently, this is the legend that sounds kind of fake to me, but she was cast because she was in a John Hughes movie and they wanted to have some kind of connection to John Hughes.
That's dumb.
Yeah, doesn't sound real to me.
But Jennifer Connelly does a great job.
So yeah, it's great. I don't even think registered as her.
She's wicked.
And I think her inclusion as a voice in his head makes his monologuing seem less contrived, and I think that was a smart choice.
Yeah.
I love when he's trapped in that warehouse and he has that montage of trying to pass the time, and it's only been 37 minutes.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you recommend people watch this movie?
Oh, definitely.
Me too.
I mean, like, it's not like a must watch, but if you're into MCU stuff and you're like trying to, this is a must watch, even if you don't watch all of the MCU ones.
Yeah. If you're gonna watch like 10 MCU movies, this would definitely be in the 10.
Oh, for sure.
Well, that's why we're doing it here, right?
Heck yeah.
That's right.
Although I will say,
Huh?
my wife was just on her phone the whole time.
She just doesn't like superheroes.
Lauren actually kind of liked this one. I mean, Lauren likes MCU movies on the average.
I think if Larissa had been at the theater, like captive, actually having to watch it, I don't think she would have killed herself.
Right.
It would have been fine. But she was like making fun of me. I was laughing. She's like, "What are you, 5?
What?
Like, the ice cream's gonna melt. That's a great joke. What are you talking about?"
It's okay.
Now the MCU's got a little bit to do to impress your lady.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Maybe in the future. Don't
Well,
lose hope.
It's possible. Like I think she's into Nolan Dark Knight movies.
Oh.
Like, so like if we can get to that level, we're good.
Do you think the MCU will ever get to a point where they do something like that, where it's like mostly a serious movie?
I think they're going to be going more serious a little bit with like the Doctor Strange movie being more horror style than
Yeah.
Blade movies, but they'll always have a little bit of like jokiness.
But will there be like an MCU Logan? Because Logan has a bit of humor, but mostly it's like,
It's pretty dark.
Well, they own
It's-
Deadpool now, right? And they said that they weren't gonna dial back Deadpool from being 18A or rated R.
But it's still like that's a jokey movie. I don't
yeah,
think.
yeah.
I don't think.
No, we're
they-
talking about like seriousness.
I think it'll
I
be
know you're talking about a different tone, but all I'm saying is like it's not the case that all MCU movies are going to be like PG or whatever like they've been, because they're going to have Deadpool. So that's a precedent of how
sure.
seeing what it's like to have like a more adult.
I think
Would
that's
we
fair.
want a Logan? Would we want an MCU
Yes,
Logan?
I think, but I think it'll be like part of a course correction. I think at some point we're going to get fatigue of this tone
Yeah.
of MCU movies, and they'll have to kind of redirect a little bit, and then we're going to start to see our Logan, our Dark Knight kind of movie.
Yeah, because X-Men had to get there.
Yeah.
X-Men had to like go through their whole life cycle before they got to the.
16
Maybe it has to do with the age of your audience, because like kids are growing up. Like I remember I was in Mexico when like what Age of Ultron came out, and it's just like slapped onto Pepsi's bottles, and
Yeah.
like there's costumes.
Right.
But so that was what, 10 years ago, and then those kids are growing up with it. So eventually they're going to be like 25, and I think I don't know to what extent you generate new kids jumping on the franchise, or if you kind of just have one cohort who watches movies and they grow with you, like Harry Potter style.
Yeah, we should ask the TikTok generation whether they're into the Avengers. I guess
Yes.
that's kind of it's still modern.
Yeah.
It's only a few years ago. But they weren't there when 10 years ago when it started.
They weren't alive.
What is a TikTok?
I think that's it for today. What do we know what we're doing next week?
It's the clock app.
We don't know what we're going to do next week, but you can bet your honey it'll be good.
Oh yeah.
Glorious.
You can't bet that.
I'll bet
First of all,
someone else's honey that
First
it's
of all, you
good.
shouldn't bet anyone's hiney. That seems dangerous.
What about a cadaver?
Well, you can bet I don't think it's your hiney to bet in that case.
If you can access it.
If you're a scientist and the body was donated to science, I guess so.
All of science owns it. It's just public domain. Hey, I'm accredited.
I'd like to cut up this. I'd like to remove the hiney from this cadaver.
Okay,
Well, are you a
as
scientist?
long as
Here's
you
my
don't bet
science
it.
Yeah.
No betting. It's like dog fighting in the science world. Not allowed. It happens. They do it.
So if you're a scientist, bet your cadaver's hiney that it will be good. And actually, you can't do that either because it might be bad.
Instead, you should just go to
Why
our
would you
Twitter.
it's not going to be bad. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, you mean the podcast?
Yeah.
No, but the movie might be bad.
We don't do that.
That's true. We only do good movies.
Like cats.
Like The Fountain.
Yes.
Go to our Twitter and vote for whatever movie you want to
At
see.
Carpool
there.
Critics, or email us carpoolcriticspodcast@gmail.com.
I can't wait to hear from you. Love you.
Weird intonation.